Hello and welcome to the final episode in our series, Unlocking Learning Pathways, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of learning in shaping careers and futures. I'm your host, Paula Harper Grant, and today I'm thrilled to have with me Henderson Patrick, a graduate of the Postgraduate Diploma in Public Sector Management program at UWI Cave Hill. Henderson, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Paula.
So let's jump right in, Henderson. Your end of course project focused on Michael Shivers and strategic HR management. Can you kind of summarize that project for us?
What we intended to do was to look to see what Michael Shivers' approach was in looking at different aspects of human resource management. One of the key things that he spoke about or focused on was talent management. That was something that was relatively new, and we wanted to have an understanding of what that was all about and how it could be applied not only in the public sector but within your local organization. So the approach really was to examine his approach and then see what we can extrapolate from his findings that can be easily applied to the organization and help to transform it more or less. This whole idea of really focusing on talent management was something that was really key.
No, that's a very fascinating topic. So what exactly drew you to this specific case study?
It is within the public sector, we always make the point that you have the same pool of individuals to draw from. That is everybody that is in the labor market. But in order for your organization to grow, we always make the point that you have to have this this advantage. And therefore, it is not just simply going in the market and getting individuals to fill a spot or to satisfy a vacancy that might be there. But you also have to look to see where your organization is and where you want it to go. And you have to get the resources to help you achieve the objectives that you want for your organization. So it's not just simply going in there and taking any person and then perhaps for the rest of their life you have to train them up to achieve what you want to achieve. When you go into the market and you're looking at talent management, you're looking at individuals who have the skill sets already that can best fit or match your organization, and it helps you to better satisfy or to satisfy at a faster rate what you want to achieve in the organization.
No, I find that very compelling. What would you say then were the most significant takeaways from your research?
The one of the important things about doing any research is making the research live or bringing it alive. In other words, it's not just simply to go and discover what has happened in the past and what people did and how it worked for them. But you want to be able to take that and make it work for you and your organization as well. And to be able, when you are looking at recruiting individuals, to be able to identify the skill sets that you want, and then to be able to take those individuals and channel them in the way that you want them to go is what makes the whole approach fascinating. No, it's not an easy task because we often make the point today that life is not like what it was in the past. All the people who joined the public service and service organizations were always interested in tenure of office. They wanted to have a long career. They wanted to have safety and security for their family and so on. The generation that we're dealing with now, they see opportunities, and wherever the opportunities take them, they would just follow that path. And therefore, you're faced with the challenge of taking individuals who are not focused on these old principles, and you have to get them cemented in your organization. You have to create pathways and opportunities that will allow them to feel that they are making the type of contribution that they want to make in the organization. And that's the really exciting part, to be able to take those minds and to channel them and to get them to love your organization, rather than at the first opportunity to just pick up and go. I mean, if they do, you don't want to hold back an individual, as we have experienced already, where individuals who you started to channel in a particular direction, and you saw the value that they would bring to the organization, you have other opportunities that arise, and because there is that mindset for constant satisfaction and things like that, these individuals would move on, and you would allow those individuals to follow their dreams.
Now, we're going to bring it a little closer to home, and we're going to talk about your journey through the program. What were your expectations going in, and how did reality actually compare?
I think whenever you go into new programs, so we're talking about a postgraduate diploma program, there's always an air of uncertainty. You're not exactly sure what to expect, but because of the cadre of individuals who you see on the slate, you expect a lot. And we had topics such as industrial relations, and that is always a fascinating topic because you want to ensure that as a manager you have the right balance between how you treat the individuals and their rights, while upholding the responsibility that you have for the organization and its growth and development. And I think, speaking on industrial relations, one of the telling statements that was made by the presenter, Mr. Kenneth Walters, was the fact that, in spite of the fact that you need to acknowledge the workers' rights, and you need to respect them, and you need to develop the best working relationship, that managers still have to manage. And that was significant because within our environment, people sometimes become afraid to say things to people, to give instructions, to give directions, or to tell persons that they're wrong, because they fear the repercussions. They feel that persons will probably report sick on them. They'll probably call in the union and things like that. And it stymies the ability of persons to really manage in the effective way that they should. And that was a good learning point for me. But my overall expectations, I believe, were met because we had some sound courses. We had some sound instructions that were given from those instructors, and it was particularly interesting to me to when it came to the topic of e-government, the whole approach, focusing on a whole of government approach. That was an expression that was used constantly, and allowing technology to be balanced with all of the aspects of government and how they relate to people. We talk about the social aspect, and it is so important to recognize that the more we involve people at all ends of our engagement as a public sector, that the better the outcomes will be. So I would say that even though I went in with an open mind, all of the expectations that I had, without fear, were met, and they were satisfied. The instructors themselves and the persons who presented and the courses that made up the diploma itself, I found to be very appropriate, and to be interlocking with each other, helping us to realize that every sector, every entity that operates within government is key to outcomes. And if there is one failure, if there's failure on one part, that it has a tremendous impact sometimes on the outcome.
Did you encounter any surprises along the way, though?
I wouldn't say that I encountered a lot of surprises. Some of the people, some of the instructors I would have known before, so I know in terms of what their expectations are and what their output would be. If I wouldn't say surprised so much, but I was intrigued by the human resource management aspect of it because it focused a lot on diversity, and it helped us to appreciate that in order for the organization to be successful, we have to recognize these diversities and we have to put mechanisms in place to harness them. A lot of the times when people are not following the pathway or have not been brought up with the same type of principles that we have been brought up with, it is really challenging to embrace those people and to engage them with whatever their specific area may be. But recognizing diversity, allowing teamwork and bonding and all these things to be a part of your process helps really in making the best organization.
And how would you say the program's approach to practical application, how would you say that that would have influenced your perspective on public sector management?
One of the key things that research and all of these other programs allowed us to do is to have a process of introspection, not only to look at yourself but to look at your organization and to see what what is the content of the organization, and content in terms of personality, who you have to work with, and then by making that analysis and doing the research and everything, you recognize that sometimes everything is not always in alignment. Sometimes the personnel need to appreciate the fact that we are in a changing environment and they need to get a hold of that change. How do you then take that information and make it relevant to your organization? You come back to the organization, you do your own assessment of the organization and see where the gaps are, where the shortfalls are, and then you begin to put programs in place to be able to cover some of those gaps. And in terms of of being practical, that provided an opportunity for me to go in the organization and look at the situation that we have at hand, and begin to put a program or programs in place to try to fill some of those gaps. And I did have the opportunity to start such programs because we are at the end of the year and there's so many different things going on. We had the parades and so on. We had to suspend the program for the time being, but I'm hoping that once the year starts in earnest, then we will get back to these programs, which help the individuals to look at leadership, look at their own traits, help to talk to people because within the public service, we like to. It is challenging to sit down and talk to your peers and your subordinates. It's okay when we are sitting down at the table and we are socializing. We can talk freely and we can share things, but when you have individuals in a room one-on-one, it is one of the areas that we have difficulty in following through on. So all of these areas that you identified, that we identified, we have put little mechanisms in place, and not only to talk to the individuals, because we realize that if the persons put their hands to the plow, and they are able to go through scenarios and do these things, that it makes them for a better person at the end of the day. And that's the focus that we're having right now.
So, Henderson, what moments from the program would you say stand out as being the most memorable?
I would say the engagement with the other participants stands out very clearly in my mind. And I say this because we not only had persons from Barbados on occasions, but we had individuals from other territories. And working with those individuals in developing projects was an opportunity to broaden your own perspective, because sometimes what happens in your own jurisdiction was something that was quite different in other jurisdictions, and it gave you an opportunity to see how other people are thinking, especially in the areas of the same HR, both HR and IR, the industrial relations part of it, and we were able to look at what legislation obtained in different jurisdictions and things of that nature. And the other thing is that you had a fairly broad perspective of persons who had good experience. Some were involved in the actual fields themselves, but then some. I mean, you had lawyers and different things. So you had a really good broad perspective of the different topics that we were dealing with. But like you were inquiring, what stands out most for me is the opportunity to work in teams with those individuals and to engage them and to learn from those individuals. That was memorable for me.
Now, that sounds very transformative. And what would you say, what lessons from the program have now stayed with you the most?
Right. One of the things that I still battling with coming out of the course is how do we take this information and, in a broad sense, apply it in a transformative way to the public service. And I say this because the public service in itself is difficult sometimes to effect change, because persons are accustomed to doing things a certain way, and then based on the age of the persons within the sector, they have been accustomed doing things in a certain way. And then when you come with the innovative ideas and transformative ideas, it is always a challenge to get it applied in the way that you want it to for effectiveness. And the other part of it is that a lot of the times the persons who participate in these programs are not necessarily the head of the spring. They're not necessarily the CEOs and the top managers, and therefore they have to go back to their organizations and try to impress the top leadership to the extent that they can get them to move and to embrace some of these things. So what would stand out with me most is the capacity to be able to do that, to be able to go back to your organization and to have a sit down and engagement with the top management and say to them, well, these are some of the key issues that we embraced in this training and how it would help the organization, and to be able to get buy-in for that, and not only buy-in but to see it implemented and to become a part of the organization.
Well, that leads me very nicely into my next question. I'd love to ask this to all of our participants. Have you had many opportunities to put what you learned into practice since completing the course?
I would say yes. A lot might be a stretch, but there have been opportunities to apply some of these the principles and some of the things that we learned during the course. And you would appreciate that within the public service, writing papers or writing projects and making submission is really a key thing to be able to get persons to understand the direction that you're going in. It is not just simply good enough to just sit with them and say, well, this is what I want. It is always good to be able to put that on paper and to show the relevance of what you're saying to the benefit of the organization. And therefore, research helps with that. If you're going to put forward a project that will benefit your organization, it is good to do research, and it is good to follow the principles of good writing practice and make those submissions. And I've had the opportunity to do that. I also had the opportunity to to come back and analyze the organization in terms of its human resources, to be able to identify gaps or shortcomings, and then subsequently have been able to put a curriculum together, put a program together to be able to offer. Stated a little earlier that with one such program, it's a work in progress, and that we have not been able to capture the entire population, and therefore the results that I would expect to see, I'm not seeing them immediately. But I believe that once a larger set of the population passes through the program, that we'll be able to see a shift and see some change in the attitude and behavior of the persons who we have shared the information with.
And have there been any challenges in applying these new approaches that you would have mentioned?
I wouldn't say there have been challenges. Within within my own organization, which is the fire service, it's a very dynamic organization. There are always things that are happening, and sometimes you have to reorganize your priorities. That is probably the only reason why you're not able to get through with some of the programs that you put in place. And I alluded a little earlier to the fact that especially when you come to the month of November and so on, you a lot of the personnel have to spend time, attending the national parades and so on, and a lot of emphasis is placed on Independence Day Parade and Remembrance Day Parade, and we engage a number of individuals when we are exercising these programs, and therefore that becomes a priority. And therefore, if it was continuing that program, I would have to put it aside in order to allow other things to come to the fore. So, in terms of challenges, if there are any, it is just that at given times, you have to readjust your priorities so that what is relevant for the moment takes center stage. And a particular program that you might have been running, you probably have to set it aside until you're able to get ahead with it again.
So, Henderson, what broader impacts then do you think that the course has had on your career and your approach to work?
I think it has changed the mindset. I've been in the public service for quite a while, but getting to understand how the public service works, I think was one of the key things for me in attending this program. And I say that because there is not one particular thing that you can focus on to make the sector work. You have to integrate the human resources. You have to look at persons that you employ for specific jobs if you want to have the job done. You have to recognize that there is the world is a global space, and that you have to be more timely in how you treat the business, and how you treat investments and people who want to make a mark in your country. You have to use technology. You have to ensure that in all of this, you treat the workers properly, because if you don't, it is going to impact on productivity and things of this nature. So the course in itself shows that you have to integrate a whole host of elements in order to achieve the outcomes that you want. And that was one of the key takeaways from going through the program.
So what's next for you, Henderson? And how do you intend to build on these experiences that you would have had as a result of this course?
Well, if I was 20 years younger, I would say that you could look to develop more mentorship programs, and to embrace the persons who are coming up in the public service in a different way, because I mentioned the point before that the market that we're in right now, and the individuals who are there for your employee, it's a totally different mindset. And therefore, you have to be able to mentor people into more things like loyalty to the organization, and commitment and follow through and so on. Because at the first sign of rain, and I mean opportunities for individuals, they will not cease to take that opportunity. And while you do not want to restrict or retard people from making progress, you want to indoctrinate persons in the purpose of your organization, that they feel to stay. But having said all of that, I still want today to follow through on those programs that we've put in place, to ensure that persons gain from your knowledge, because it is not only put in the program, but it is presenting. It is given to these individuals what is a part of you and what you have experienced. And therefore, I want to be able to do that until the point in time when I have retired from the public service, and I will continue in earnest to do that.
So finally, Henderson, what advice then would you give to someone considering this program?
I think you have to approach the program with an open mind, and you have to recognize sometimes that you're coming on the course will benefit you. It will serve for your development, and it will serve for the development of the organization in the area, in the space that you're in. A lot of the times when we attend programs like these, we go back to the organization and we have all of these brilliant ideas, and it is our intent to revolutionize the organization, not recognizing that we are at a level perhaps below the boss, or maybe 2 or 3 levels below the boss. And we first have to sell that program. And therefore, if you're going to sell it, we have to be convicted about it. We have to sell it so that others will have buy-in. And at the end of the day, what we have garnered from the course, we can see some of it being manifested in the organization. I would say to individuals, however, that you still have to pursue the training with real intent. You have to be committed to it, because the program requires you to get involved in research. It requires you to be a team member. It involves you to participate in the program, the projects that you have to present. And therefore, if we do not do that to the extent that we should, it puts a burden on the other participants. And what you want to develop at the end of the day is such good relationships with those individuals that you can call upon them at the end of the day. You don't want to go and put stain on any relationship, because it is also about networking and having individuals that you can call, even to bounce things off of. So I would say to individuals that the program is an excellent program. I believe that it was well thought out. We had a situation where we did quite a bit of online work. We had the opportunity to do classwork. I like the blended approach that we had, and I believe that if the program is going to go on, that is the type of approach that it should take, where you create opportunities not only for the online environment, but that you can have an engagement, a face-to-face engagement with the tutors, and also be able to see the other individuals face-to-face, that you can engage with them and so on. So my advice really would be, if the opportunity comes up for you to participate, embrace it with open arms.
Now, that's fantastic advice. I just want to say thank you so much, Henderson, for sharing your journey with us.
I appreciate it very much, and it was a real pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Paulo.
We want to say thank you for staying with us over the past 4 weeks of our podcast series. We hope you'll join us again next year when we return for another exciting season in our learning podcast series, Unlocking Learning Pathways. Until next time, I'm Paula Harper, and it was a pleasure to be your host.